Hola, hola, mi gente. Welcome to another episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. You know, the first Wednesday of every month, we are very wine focused. We want to make sure that we are really talking about wine. And I love featuring my Latine on wine brands. So I'm so excited to have the owners of Surcos Wines with us. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves before we get into all of the other things, before we get into all of the chisme about your wine and about your story. So, Luis, would you like to start and introduce you and your beautiful wife?
Yes, this is Paola Gallegos. She's my wife, and my name is Luies Gallegos, and we are the owners, and I am the winemaker for Surcos Wines.
I am so I've known you guys for like a year now. I mean, we've prior to that, I think you guys we've interacted through like email and everything, but I really got no, actually, it's been over a year. I think,
It's been
Luis, I
longer than a
think,
year.
yeah, it's definitely been that. But like last year, I spent a lot of time in Napa and Sonoma, so I got to like have the chance to really get to know you a little bit more. Got to meet Paola. I got to like so. Yeah, we've been trying to do this for a very long time. We've been saying, yeah, let's do the podcast. So
Yes.
I'm yes, I'm so excited. We finally get to do it. And before we get into so I did bring some of your wine with me because I'm not at home, but I have your 2019 Tempranillo with me, and it's raining. So I was like, oh yeah, I could use a little extra kick today. Um, I'm not going anywhere. So bring on the Tempranillo. So
Nice.
I'm super excited. I'm not gonna lie. Usually I try to drink the wines for the first time with you. I couldn't wait. I had
That's
to
okay.
bust it open.
It's
So
okay.
this is literally the last glass of the Tempranillo that I have. Like yeah, it's the last one, and I
So
saved it for you guys. So
that means
salud.
that means salud. That means you started early.
Yeah, I've had it well because thankfully I have my Coravin, right? So I could preserve the wine. And then this time I got to pop the cork finally and not have to worry about saving it. But it was so hard, let me tell you, to save all this wine because I still have other bottles of wine that I haven't opened because I was like, I was about to do a tasting, right? I wanted to do a tasting with you guys, but I ran out of capsules for my Corvin. So that was my bad. And the last thing I want to do is pop open all those bottles,
We'll
right?
see. We'll save that for the next interview.
Yes, that's what I'll do. But I have tasted your wines because of the tastings and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I'm super, super excited. Um, I'm sure you guys are drinking wine all the time, but I know you're drinking water right now.
Right now, yes.
Today we're drinking water. Yes, we're always drinking wine.
I know there's plenty. And I think you guys have even been part of the tamales and wine guide and the that we put together and the pozole and wine guide. I believe we have you in those
I
ones, don't you?
I think so. I think the Tempranillo was in there.
Yeah. Well, let me start by kind of talk like you Surcos wines, obviously. And I want to start with like kind of how it all started for you, right? Because so often a lot of the Lat- Latine owned wine brands are started from like generations, like previous generations, one or two generations before from the Bracero program. Your story is no different. So I would love to hear your story in regards to how the Bracero program affected your family and how your family kind of related into getting into the wine industry.
Yeah, perfect. Well, yeah. So it all started back in the late '50s. During the Bracero program. My grandpa, signed up for the Bracero program and worked all through California. And eventually, one day, he landed in Napa. He worked here in Napa, and he loved it. He wanted to make it his home, so he did. And that's the first generation that landed here in Napa Valley. My grandpa worked for Behringer for many years in the vineyards, and then after that was my dad came. My dad came in the late '60s, and then he worked jobs here and there, and eventually landed a job in the vineyard. And So my dad's 70, my dad's 71 and he's still working in the vineyards. So he's been there for 45 years here in Napa.
Wow.
So he went from one worker to a foreman. You know, he manages about 300 acres of land. So that's how my dad got here through my grandpa. And then obviously I was born here, and and then my journey started in '99 when I first started working for a winery here in Napa, and worked my way up the ranks, and you know, worked under great winemakers and mentors. And I was the kind of person that asked a lot of questions and took a lot of notes. So that's kind of how I learned on how making wine.
Were you one of those kids that were like, you would go? Because I've heard stories from some of the other winemakers and owners that they would like go to the fields with their parents or grandparents and like be the little kids running around in the fields while their parents or grandparents were like picking the grapes and harvesting and stuff like that. Were you one of those little kids? And if so, like, what was your, because I will say from my experience, my grandpa, he was like, he used to work citrus and avocados here in San
Mhm.
Diego, right? So oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruits, avocados. So I remember being a little kid going over there and being like, I would thought it was so fun. Grandpa, can I take some oranges home? Oh, can I get some avocados? These guys are probably like, oh my gosh, this little kid does not realize how much work we do. She thinks it's all fun and games. Were you one of those kids as well?
Actually, yes, I was one of the ones. My mom and dad. So my mom also worked in the vineyards too. It wasn't just my dad. But yeah, I would go with my mom and dad. I was about, you know, my sisters and I would go, and I would, and then actually the winery I worked for, the first winery, my dad worked for that company for the same company since he's been working for 45 years. And the my boss that hired me, she remembers me when I was a year old, when my mom would carry me around in a backpack and be working in the vineyards.
Oh my
So I
God.
mean, so I got a long history of, you know, of being in the vineyards and
Truly
going with my
born
mom and
into it.
dad. Yeah, yeah. I wasn't actually there working. I was there more having fun and playing with the dogs, playing in the ponds and stuff like that. So making a mess and causing trouble.
I mean, you're a kid. That's what you do. Paola, what about you? What was your like? Did you grow up in the area? Is that something that you grew up around?
Yeah, so I was also born and raised here in Napa also. My dad worked in the vineyards. I didn't really, I wasn't one of the kids that would go out and, with my parents, but my mom never worked in the vineyards. My dad did. Um, but a lot of, family members also worked in the vineyards.
Your uncle was in Boston, right?
Well, I have my godfather, who's my dad's oldest brother, came as a bracero also, and my grandfather also came as a bracero. So, um, but I didn't. I've never worked in the wine industry myself until now. So, yes, I
But it's
didn't.
in your blood, it's in your veins.
Yeah, I didn't know hardly anything about wine other than you drink it. So I've learned a lot now with Luis, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, even I've since I started the podcast, I've learned so much because I was just a drinker of wine, like an
Hmm.
appreciator of wine. And then when I
Yeah,
started the podcast, it was like people started asking me questions, and that's when I was like, I guess I better start really learning about this stuff.
yeah. And even then when we started dating, I didn't drink. I wasn't much of a wine drinker, but I got into it little by little and I started appreciating it.
I want to I love hearing about people that came from the Bracero program and everything because I really want to do like a whole like deep dive into that because it's such a backbone of the industry, right? Not just industry, but agriculture as a whole. Like I said, I come like my grandpa worked in the fields, different fields, right? Citrus fields and stuff like that. But it's I don't think people truly realize like they see the finished product and they're like, oh yay, but you don't think of all of the truly backbreaking work that goes into it, and not only the work, but like the love, the cultivation, because yeah, grapes grow, but you have to know how to prune the grapes. You have to know when they're ready. You have to like, there's just so much into it. So, Luis, for you, kind of growing into that, did you always know that wine was where you wanted to go into, or what was the pivot, or were you like, I don't want to be in that? What was that moment that you were like, you know what, maybe I'll do that?
Well, out of high school, I went to the JC to become I wanted to become a teacher first, a teacher, and then I wanted to become a cop. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then in 1999, my dad's company, the he worked for, they built a winery, so he knew that I wasn't going to school. He goes, "Hey, go ask for a job. Maybe they'll hire you," and then that's how I kind of landed there. And then I had the opportunity there to work with, again, winemakers and friends and, and people like that. And then I had the opportunity to make some wine, just like garage wine here and there. So in 2000, I think it was 2001, I made some garage wine, me and a buddy, in 2002, 2003, and it was all cab. And kind of just took the notes of the winemakers that I was working around with. And the wine came out pretty good. So we bottled it, all the years, the 2001, 2002, 2003. And then my buddy, my partner that we made it, he entered it into the Napa Fair as a just, regular cab. And in 2000, let's see, I think the 2001 got first place, the 2002 got second place, and the 2003 got third place. So we got first, second, and third place in its own category. So I was like, oh shit, oh shoot, I can make some good
You can
wine.
curse, it's okay.
Correct. And then in 2004, I had the opportunity to become the cellar master for a wine brand. The brand that I worked for. The owner, she felt like she needed a little more detailed and more attention to her wines. And she trusted me, and she wanted to give me the opportunity, and I did it. And that's kind of where everything took off.
Oh my, I didn't realize that you've literally been doing this since 1999. That's like you've been in this like 25 years, dude. That's
25.
crazy.
Yeah, 25 years. So 99 was my very, very first harvest.
Wow. Okay, I guess I still need there for harvest. I've been saying it, and everybody's
Come.
been like, yes, come, come, come. And I'm like, I know I need to. So I'm gonna try and make that happen this year to come
Yeah,
for harvest. I really do.
if you come, I would come like around the end of September or the mid of October. That's like the peak of harvest.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna, but I don't know. I'm gonna see if they need me to MC for La Cosecha Grand Tasting again this year. Because that was fun last year.
Yeah. Speak about like you were saying about the Bracero program, about the history and all that. It's funny you mentioned that because there's a lot of I just followed a new page on Instagram. It's called the Bracero program. I think that's the name of it. And I met this girl in Mexico when I went in January. I went in January to go present my wines down there to try to sell them and present them in Zamora, Michoacan. And there's one girl I met. She works for the city of Zamora, Michoacan, and she said that they have I don't know, papers and papers of all kinds of Bracero program and what do you call it?
The concept.
Like no, like just like um,
Like applications or
documentation of people that
okay.
came. And I asked her, I go, is there a way you could find my grandpa's, application, signature, or picture or something? So right now she's in the search of that, looking for my grandpa's, um, you know, information to see if we could find it, which would be cool because then I would really know what year he really came. Okay.
Sorry, my sister came home, so I had the dogs here. So I just closed the door so I wouldn't have to
Good.
Great. Um, that is that is really awesome. I'm gonna have to follow that page or send it to me so I can follow that page because that would be really awesome because I've been wanting to. I mean, I think so many or many of us know like the generalities of the Bracero program, but I don't know like there's so much more to it. I know that there was such an and then I know that there was a lot of like, you know, that's like the government has really used uh
That's all right.
Oh, it froze.
Mm.
me at all.
There you go. But now we're on now.
Okay. Okay, where did you freeze?
When you said, I don't know.
Okay.
About the government.
Okay.
Let's
Oh,
start
so
over.
yes, what I was saying was like obviously the government has kind of used programs to bring Latinos to the States and then has been known to reverse programs and then send people back. And so there's like a lot of complexity, I think, to the Bracero program that people are not aware of.
Mhm.
And it's giving people opportunities, obviously, to bring people here and to start families and to really get into it. And it's, but I would love to like dive deeper. So please send me that page. I would love to do that. But I think it's amazing. Like you have somebody looking for those documents for your grandfather. That is so cool because it's so hard to find things, especially like, once you get to a certain, a certain history to find those types of documents and everything, especially when it's not within the US, when it's
Yeah.
coming from different countries.
And also it's hard, because my grandpa's not around no more. So it's hard, now that I'm older, I want to get to know more about the history and this and that. And, I mean, I can't ask those questions anymore, because he's gone.
Yeah, no, I understand. My grandpa passed when I was in seventh grade, and it's a lot of things. And my grandma passed when I was like 7 years old. So it's a lot of things that you can't ask or and you don't appreciate when you're younger, right? You don't
Correct.
appreciate, and then you get older and you start hearing things from family or you start realizing things that you were part of and you wish you still had them there to ask those questions and to learn those things.
Mhm. And
Um,
sometimes we don't realize all the history that's behind it. And there's just so much more that if we really looked into it, I mean, we would realize like a lot of us wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for that program.
Correct.
yeah. I mean, I think it's awesome. You have bracero to bottle, and I like that, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
love
me.
the way that you say that.
That's my
Oh,
slogan. There it is.
sure.
But I said out two bottles.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, so at what point, because obviously you go through all these things and there's so much to learn. I don't like, I still have so much to learn about wine, and everybody's like, yeah, you'll never learn all of it because there's always so much, or there's always this or always that. So you went to become like the cellar master for this, at what point were you like, I know you obviously created your own wines very early, but there's a difference between like kind of doing it as a hobby versus like, okay, and then working with for a company to, I'm gonna start my own brand. Walk,
Well,
I want to hear like how did you get to that mindset? Because it's not easy, right? It's not easy to start your own brand. It's not easy being a small business. You're putting your heart and soul into these things. So walk me through how you decided that's what you wanted to do.
well, it's after becoming a cellar master, I learned the ways on the winemakers that I worked under on how to make on how they made their wines, and the wines were good, and I was super proud of the wines that I made for the company that I worked for. And they were really good, delicious. People liked them. All my friends liked them. And then I made a friend um, nearby here in the Bay Area. He started up his own tasting room, and I started making wine, you know, just for fun, just for, to sell to him. It was rosé, or it was like a Sauvignon Blanc, or something that I could get my hands on for cheap or for free. And, and he would say, "Hey, Luis, you know what? These wines are selling, they're selling fast and people liking them." So then I felt like the time was coming. It was like 2018, and I wanted to create a brand. And it was scary. It was hard. Then 2019 came, and then finally I told the wife, I was like, you know what? I really want to start my own brand, and this is the name that I want to create, and this and that. And then she's like, well, if you really want to do it, let's do it. And I'm a risk taker. Like I'll risk the house. I'll risk whatever it is I gotta do to make it happen. And my wife's not,
I'm not.
but she supported me all the way. She said, okay, well, if you really want to do this, let's do it. So I put
She believed in you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got to it, and I started making these wines, and one led to another. And now I'm 4 years into it, and now I'm here. And these are some of the wines that I create, I make.
Paola, when obviously you said you weren't much of a wine drinker and anything, when you were dating Luis, did you start becoming a wine drinker? Like, or was it when you're like, oh crap, this is now our business. I better start investing my taste buds into
Oh,
this.
no. It started before that. Once we started dating and, we would go out to dinners or we'd hang out, we'd drink wine here and there. So I kind of started learning a little bit more of the wine, and just started enjoying it more. I feel like growing up, as like in our household, we never really had wine. It wasn't something that I would see like our families drinking, so I wasn't used to it.
Was it a normal?
It wasn't a normal, you have tequila, you have beer, you have other stuff. And then as I got older and started going out and hanging out with my friends, we never really went for the wine. It was always like the hard liquor and beer. But as I got older and I started hanging out with Luis, and we started drinking wine. Well, I started drinking wine with him, and that's how I started enjoying it.
Well, the same thing
How?
in my. Go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, the same thing in my house too. Obviously we're Latinos, and I'm a beer drinker. I mean, I like my beer, and I do like my tequila. And my mom likes her margaritas, and my dad also too. But
My mom
when
loves her margaritas.
but when my first when the idea first came to my head about making wine, I felt like there was at the moment at the moment I felt like there was a Latino train coming, and I felt like this is our time to shine, and I felt like if I didn't jump on the train, I lost my chance, so I jumped on.
That's awesome. Paola, how hard was it? Did you hesitate in saying, okay, if you want to do it, let's do it? Like knowing he's a risk taker, he just said he would risk the house to do what he wanted to do.
It was hard. I didn't hesitate. But it was hard just being on, like, I knew what he was capable of. I knew he was going to succeed just because when he sets his mind to something, he gets it done. And so I knew, yeah, it was a huge risk, but I knew it was going to work out one way or another.
Can I just say, like, I love, first of all, Paola, I'm so happy that you're on this as well, because it's not often, like, there are definitely some of the wineries that we've had the husband and wife, but they're really partnered together, like, but and they grew up in wine as well, like their parents and stuff. But the fact that you really didn't, and I love hearing like your thought process in regards to, because I can hear Luis's thought process, right? But without you and your support, he would not even be where he is now. So I love that. First of all, let me say thank you for being on here as well, Luis. I'm so glad that you're like, I want my wife on here. Like, that just shows what a partnership you have and how much you trust one another. So I'm so happy that you're on here as well. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget to say that.
Thank you.
Well, also, I'm the type of person, if she says no, I'm still going to do it. But I'm glad she said yes.
He's going to be on the down low making some wine.
He was going to figure it out one way or another.
I would make it happen one way or another. Even if it was, even if the batches, if the
They're a little
production was smaller, you know, I would make it happen.
So why Surcos? Why did you choose that name?
So the reason I chose Surcos is because, you know, my last name is Gallegos, and there's a lot of us here, and a family member of mine already took the last name Gallegos, so he already makes Gallegos wines. So for me, I wanted to talk about my family's legacy, right here in Napa, 4 generations. So then it just came to me like, you know, where does everything start? Everything starts in the Surcos. You know, that's where everybody starts. You know, everybody starts managing the vineyards, cultivating the vineyards, pruning, suckering, shoot positioning, dropping fruit. I mean, that's where it starts.
And for those who don't
And
know, it means vineyard rose in Spanish.
correct. Surcos is a Spanish term for the rows of the vineyards, and so that's why I picked it. And I was like, that's where our journey started because my grandpa worked in the Surcos, my dad too, obviously my parents too. I mean, a lot of us here in the Napa Valley, the Surcos, the Surcos, the Surcos, you know, and I just liked the name Surcos, and then it got to me. I mean, there was other names, but Surcos was like by far the best one. And then if you notice too, I don't know if you look right here. So there's Surcos Wines, and then there's four
Oh yeah, the
rows.
rose.
There's 4 rows. So one row represents each generation of my family. So the first one, it represents my grandpa, coming as a bracero. The second one represents my dad, which is still my dad's still around, still working in the Surcos. He's still managing vineyards. I'm the third one. Um, I don't work much in the vineyards, but I do work in production. I'm the more of the winemaking, but I do go out there and, you know, prune and sucker, not as much as I should be, but I do. That's the third row, and the fourth row is my kids. They're the fourth generation here in the Napa Valley. So these three are facing the same direction because my grandpa, my dad, and myself were in the industry in the vineyards, in the wine. And the fourth one, my kids, they're straight because they're still young. They're 8 and 4, and I don't know which direction they're gonna go. If they take over Surcos, I will face it the same direction as the rest of the family, and we'll continue the generation.
That is so cool. I love that. I'm learning so much, and I've talked with you so many times, and the fact that I'm just learning this is the craziest thing. I love that. I had no idea that that's what the rose on your shirt meant.
Yeah, these are not just vineyards. These represent each generation of the family.
Oh my gosh. Well,
And and then also too, I mean, like, you know, like I mentioned before, my mom has worked in the vineyards. You know, she drove tractor, this and that. Um, you know, my sister when she was young, she helped out my parents. Both my sisters, they were a little older than me. I'm the youngest of 3, so I'm the spoiled brat of them. So my older sisters, they're the ones that helped out more with my parents when they came down to work in the vineyards.
um, do you guys, so I'm like, just based on your website and everything, I'm looking at a couple of things, right? Like, because obviously when I was pouring the Tempranillo, I knew it comes from the Los Carneros area. It looks like you are, but it also looks like you have your own vineyard. So are you purchasing grapes and harvesting your own vineyards? You have your own vineyards that you're able to harvest from as well?
Yes, correct. So I do source. There's so like my rosé of Syrah, I do source from a Latino grower. My Sauvignon Blanc is the same thing. I also source that from a Latino grower, and the other ones, um, I me and my dad. There's small little ranches that me and my dad take care of, and those are the ones we produce from.
So which wines do you that oh sorry, let me rephrase this. And JP, correct this for me, please. That's my editor. So what wines come from the vineyards from your vineyards?
So I have there's this past year I made it's called the Aliatico Rosé. It's an Italian variety. It's a small little vineyard in Sonoma that I landed, and it's about 500 plants. and I made 25 cases of a rosé. It's the lighter one right here, right
To the
there.
very
That one right
far
there.
left. There you go.
Correct. Yep, the second one. So that one, that comes from me pruning it and taking care of it, right? The other one that I comes from us is the Cabernet, is the Cabernet Sauvignon. So we have a cab that's in Atlas Peak here in Napa. It's an AVA. That one's about another 500 plants that me and my dad, and actually that one my dad named it. He named that one Ecuador, which Ecuador means kind of like a little piece of land up in the hill where you go and do your garden. So he named it Ecuador. So I named that one after my dad. The other one is the Chardonnay. The Chardonnay, right? That one right there, next to the bubbles. The Chardonnay is another ranch that me and a buddy of mine, we leased it. It's about 2 acres of Chardonnay. So that one came from there. I called it the Escuela because it was nearby a school. So I call it Escuela Ranch. And that is from a Carnero Chardonnay also. And then the Tempranillo, I did source that one from a Latino grower. And also the bubbles, the sparkling, I sourced that one too.
So let's talk. Well, now let's get into the different wines because you just said, because I saw you have lined up all of your wines there. And for people who have, if you're on YouTube, you're seeing them, right? But if you're just listening, we're going to go through the wines that you now have. So let's start from the very left and then go, like, we'll end with the bubbles.
My
Types
left
of
or your
wines
left?
are my left. Yeah, start from right there where you're pointing. What
Okay.
types of wines do you have is Surcos producing?
Okay, so these are the ones that I produce. I produce a Sauvignon Blanc. I also produce two rosés. I produce actually this year will be my second Chardonnay. So I do produce two Chardonnays, one from Carneros and one from Russia River. I produce a Tempranillo. I produce a Pinot Noir, which I'm sold out, but 2023 will be coming out. I'll be bottling that in August. And I also produce a couple cabs and also the sparkling. So on your far left will is my 2022 rosé of Syrah. So the grape is Syrah.
I've never had a rosé of Syrah.
You're missing out.
I mean, I've had like a rosé of Pinot Noir, a rosé, like I've had like different ones, but I don't think I've ever had a rosé of Syrah.
So in the past when I was working for the company, I made a rosé of Syrah and I made rosé of Pinot Noir. So my first vintage was rosé of Pinot Noir. That's what I could get my hands on. And then the fire started and the drought started. So then I got my hands on some Syrah. So that is the Syrah that from Lake County, from a Latino grower. And I made that one. I produced about 150 cases of it. I'm down to about 30 cases of it. So it's selling good. I mean, a lot of people like it. It's fresh. It's well balanced. Good for a hot day. It has a little bit of CO2, a little bit of bubbles in there, so it's not too much, light, 13% alcohol, right?
Confirm with the wife. Yes.
Yeah, right? Am I right? Am I right?
Paola, what is your favorite? What is like out of all of your wines right now? Because I know people always ask me this, and I'm like, it's so hard to answer when they're like, well, what's your favorite wine? I'm like, okay, I love I support all of you guys so hard. And I'm like, it depends on the time of year, depends on what I'm eating or if I'm eating anything. It depends on my mood, like everything. So right now, what is
Right now,
yeah.
it's hard because they're all, I mean, they're really good. But
You said you like the Aliatico.
the Aleatico is really good. It's very different from the previous rosés. So it's I mean, it's a tiny little bit sweeter than the other ones that he's made. But it's just really good, even if you're just drinking it just to drink it, not necessarily with like a dinner or anything. It's just really refreshing, really good. Also, I really like the Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc is probably my go-to if I'm just gonna have, a glass of wine. Again, it's also really refreshing, easy to drink. Um, but they're all really good, so it's really hard to just pick one.
Luis,
Well,
right now, what is yours? What is your go-to right now?
mine is the new one. Is the new
The
baby.
bubbles.
It's the bubbles. It's got to be the bubbles because it's my new
Okay,
one.
tell me something about your bubbles, because the first time I noticed the bubbles immediately, I was like, wait a second, you got bubbles? So tell us about the bubbles. Tell us about your sparkling.
So the sparkling comes from Lodi. It's a Chardonnay, and I only produced 22 cases of it. So I was able back in 21. I had a chance to work with another winery in Lodi, but to produce some bubbles, and everything went off good, and we kicked it off, and I created Surcos. I was gonna call it Espumante,
Like
which means bubbles, but the TTB didn't like it, so I had to go back to sparkling wine. Let me get it so you can see it.
yeah.
So I wanted to do a different color, different label. So if you notice here, if you notice in the back, all my labels are cream color and black font. So now here I went to a navy blue. Navy blue is kind of my color, with the gold. So the gold matches the foil, and it's 11, what is it, 12.5 alcohol, and it's really refreshment. It's a blanc to blanc. I mean,
Ooh.
it's really good. It's well priced, affordable, and it's gonna go quick.
Yes.
It's really good.
Well, I will say this, and most of I would say all of the wine brands, all of the Latino owned wine brands, they're micro, they're micro brands, which means, obviously you guys don't produce like these huge amounts. I will say this, I actually appreciate that, because I feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like you can taste a difference. Like you can taste a difference. There's just, you can, as a
It's
smaller
more
brand, you can
it's
experiment more too.
it's more quality, more passion, more dedication. Because I mean, like you said, we are putting our heart and soul into it, and
Yeah.
our money, So I for me, every time I make a wine or create a wine, I wanna hit a home run with it. I want to make it where everybody enjoys it. All the wines that I make, I make them where I feel like I want to make them where beginners can like the wine, and also experienced people can appreciate a well-made wine also.
Yeah. And honestly, the price point for everything that you guys do, for all of the heart and soul and hard work that you guys put into it, the price point is very reasonable. I some people might think it's a little bit high. I'm a wine drinker, and I'm very fortunate that I, get a lot of wine to taste as well, but I have bought wine from you, from a lot of the different vintners as well. So, but I will say this, like, I would rather pay $25-$30 to a smaller vintner supporting, I mean, I created the first directory. I gotta support you guys, right? Like I gotta put
Yeah,
my
support
money where my
the
mouth is.
Latinos.
But just I would rather spend that money into my community, and knowing and getting to know all of you guys, and tasting your wines and knowing your stories, and knowing that my money is supporting another Latino owned business. To me, that's worth it. Like it's well worth it. And you guys could really be charging a lot more for your wines than you do.
Everybody tells me that I need to charge a little more, but I feel like they're well priced. I'm not too high, I'm not too low. I'm not trying to make $1 million. I'm just trying to make it a good consistent business where it's flowing.
Yeah. So I want to talk about real quick. I know that I had sent an email out to everybody in regards to the tamales and wine guide and the pozole and wine guide. I know we have you guys in one of those. Um, I don't know if like it was featured on like one of the Me Too sites on social media. the menudo, I think, no, not the menudo. We haven't done a menudo one yet. We need to do a menudo one. The
I'm down for the
tamales,
menudo one.
yeah, the tamales and wine guide. And let me tell you, first of all, the picture that the Me Too used was a very weird picture. It looked like a plastic tamal. It looked like a plastic tamal. But you know, people reading the, like, when I read the comments, it was really frustrating because the comments were, this article or this guide is only to appeal to white people, or they think they're too good, or this and that, or, oh no, it's, you need to have champurrado. Look, I don't like chocolate, so champurrado is not gonna be my go-to for anything, right? But, or ponche, and so when I finally responded to some of them, I just put one response and I was like, look, these are Latino owned wine brands. I worked with these wine brands to create it. Like, and there were a lot of people who were like, oh my gosh, I never thought of this. This is awesome, blah, blah, blah. So when you hear people kind of, or have you ever heard people kind of crapping on pairing wine with, Mexican foods or Latino foods? Because I feel like so many of these wines, so many general wines are not made for the foods that we tend to make and that we gravitate to. But a lot of the wines that are made by Latinos are made to go to pair with the foods, to pair with these things that we have. So what is your response in regards to that, of people who might hate on having wine with enchiladas, or having wine with tamales, or having wine with ceviche, or anything like that?
I personally haven't had any of that. Like people tell me, but I mean, but I feel like, our wines could go with any kind of food. They could go with, like I feel like my Sauvignon Blanc could go with some carne con chile, some pork, and some arroz, and my rosé could go with ceviche. And I feel my bubbles could go with, I don't know, I mean, my cab could go with probably tempranillo could probably go with some mole,
Yeah.
some chicken and mole.
Ooh.
But I really haven't got into that. But I do drink my wine with, I mean, obviously we're Mexican. My wife cooks Mexican food, so does my mom, and so does her mom. And I drink wine with it.
So
Just can
yeah, I was
I
about to ask
like to
you.
get into that. So I feel like I mentioned earlier, I didn't grow up being around wine a whole lot. My family didn't drink wine. I feel like culturally we're not used to that, but I feel like now that we're older and there's a lot more Latino winemakers, like, I mean, our people are the ones that are working in the vineyards. They're the ones working in the wineries. They're the ones creating these great wines. So it needs to be accessible you know, to our families. And like slowly we're seeing it a lot more in our household. So yeah, like it's not something we're used to, but we're now getting used to having wines with all of our foods that we're, culturally used to.
Yes.
So I guess I can see why they think, oh, this is geared more to like white people, because culturally that's what you saw was we were making these wines for people with money, or they were not accessible to our families. But now they are. And so now we are pairing them with our foods. So
Yes. No,
yeah.
I couldn't
So
say that better than myself, because it's so
yeah.
true. I think we didn't grow up with wine either. Let me tell you, the wine, like, it was like wine coolers, remember, like Bartles and James or stuff, like
Mhm.
whatever. And then my mom would occasionally get the box wine. Like, box wine is different today than it was like 30 years ago, or it'd be like the Franzia or something like that. But otherwise, no, we had a separate, like, my mom and dad, they had converted the garage to a family room, and then there was a laundry room with the extra fridge and freezer in there. So in that
Always,
extra fridge, yeah,
always. I got one
always,
here.
right? And it was always the beer and the liquor and everything like that, like a wine coolers. And so same, I didn't grow up with wine,
Mhm.
and I didn't start appreciating wine until later. And when like I said from the beginning, when I started the podcast and people started asking me, And then I was like, okay, there has to be Latino owned wineries. Like I would go to the store and I never found them. And I was like, there has to be. So there I go, start Googling, right? Start Googling some Latino owned wineries. That's how I found Mava. That's how I found some other like lists, but there were only like 10 to 15 wineries on these lists. And I was like, there has to be more. And the reason it was so important to me was obviously to support my community, but for exactly what you were saying, Paola, for the fact that when I was looking up numbers, 96% of agricultural workers come from our community. And then when I was looking it up, it was like 0.01% of there's 11,000, and there's probably even more now, but this was even a couple years ago, 11,000 wine brands based in the United States. And on our directory, we have less than 100.
Wow.
We're one of them.
Yes, yes, you are. But even within the last like month, we've added probably like 5 or 6. I get so excited because like as soon as somebody tells me, hey, I saw your directory, or somebody talked about your directory, or, oh, I went to a winery based on it makes me so happy because the whole point of it is to support you guys, right? To let people know that you guys are here and you guys are creating these amazing wines. And there's so much history behind so many of the wines that are being made, starting generationally.
Yeah,
And it
this
just
ever since I got into the winemaking, I worked in the winery for a long time, but I didn't know there was Latino owned wineries or wine brands. But ever since I got into it, now you meet more and more and more. I mean, small brands, they're trying, they're hustling. Great wines also too, which is good.
Oh yeah. And you know what I love about it? Because obviously we met at like all these different events, and I've been to all these different, that community, the Latino winemaking community is so strong and so supportive of one another. And that is one thing that I don't ever get out of my head, right? They're like, oh, do you know about this winery? Oh, let me introduce you to this person. Let me send an email, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's this like kind of fellowship that I don't think I've ever really been a part of. And you guys have all been so welcoming to me. Like, oh yeah, Jessica, let me introduce you to this person. Let me introduce, oh wait, taste the wine. Let's do this. Let's do this. And that's been so appreciative of me, of you guys including me in
For
this
sure.
community. But the way that you guys support each other is like next level.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's important though, because we're such a small group that we want to see everyone succeed, and we want more Latino winemakers and wine brands to be out there. I think it's important for our community because, like I said, our people are the ones doing all the work. It would be great for them to have a little bit of recognition and be part of, just making wines and having success.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree too. I feel like I want to show everybody that we can do it too. We're not just the hands behind the labor. We're not the sweat and the the labor, the sweat, hard working. We're not just pickers. We're not just farmers.
The quote or the tagline that I've created for the directory, it's we not only work the land, we own the brands.
I like that.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Because it's so important that people know that, right? And I love that. I know that your kids are probably going to be popping out anytime, but talk about your wine club and how people can be a part of that, and how people can, if they're in the area, how can they, is there a way for them to taste your wines, all of that?
Yeah, I'm working on a tasting room right now, right? But I don't have one at the moment. But if people do want to taste my wines, they can also reach out to me. They can email me at info@surcoswines.com. We can set up an appointment. I do have areas or spaces where I could host people. Also, you can order my wine on surcoswines.com. I do have an Instagram page, which is called Surcos Wines. I have a Facebook page, Surcos Wines. Everything is Surcos Wines. Also, too, I am in a lot of restaurants around the area here in Napa. So if you do go support a restaurant here in Napa, you can support me also as well. Buying a bottle of wine. Where else?
I mean, they can contact you directly also.
They can email me too. They can email me at Luis at surcoswines.com as well.
And I'll make sure all of that information is in the show notes. And you guys do have a wine club. So you do 4, 6, and 12 bottles. So
I do. Yep. I just started it this past year. I really haven't had the time to market it yet, but I do need to.
well, we're starting
Hopefully-
right now,
We're
Luis.
starting now. This is my first marketing. I do have a wine club. I try to do at least 2 release parties a year. This year, I think I might just do 1, just to release, kind of like, so people come and taste the bubbles, the Lealtico Rosé, and my Pinot Noir in August. I'm also going to be buying my new Chardonnay in August. So this is a big year.
Oh,
Hopefully.
let me ask you a question about your Chardonnay. Do you do barrel aged or do you do steel barrel, like wood barrel aged or steel barrel aged Chardonnay?
So to answer that, I asked a lot of questions to people that I know, and people like Chardonnays that are buttery, and people like them that are just like nice and fresh. So I did it right
That's
in the
me,
middle.
fresh.
So you have to taste my Chardonnay. So I did 1 barrel, 1 new barrel from barrel ferment. I did 1 neutral barrel ferment, which means like the oak is already it's not there. And I did 1 stainless steel drum. And then I blended it all together, and it came out masterpiece. It was good.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hold you to that so I can try it because
It's
that's
really
what
good.
I always tell. Because I will say this, I always used to think I didn't like Chardonnay, right? Until I started tasting steel barrel aged Chardonnay, and then I was like, oh, I actually do like Chardonnay, but I don't. I realized I didn't like oak barrel aged Chardonnay because it is too buttery. It's too heavy.
Yeah.
It's too like. I just, for me personally,
Mhm.
my mother-in-law likes the buttery Chardonnays, right? But me personally, I just don't, I'm not a fan. Just like I like California Sauvignon Blancs. I'm not a fan of like New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs because they're too grapefruit forward and I hate grapefruit. Like that's instantly the first thing I taste.
Yeah. Yeah, so all my wines, I mean, all my wines they're well balanced, well rounded. Like the cabs, they don't have really strong tannins in them. There is tannins on there, but they're nice and smooth. And so
You're not gonna go like,
no, and it's not the oak is not overpowering the wine. Like it's not a 2x4 hitting you in the face. And I am Latino, so I do make the wines for everybody to enjoy. Um, but yeah, and then my cab. So my Chardonnays, my Pinots, my Tempranillo, my cabs. So the barrels that I use, it is a Latino made barrel. So I have a friend that works here in Napa Valley. He goes back to France, not just for me, but for his company that he works for. He makes their barrels by hand. So at the same time, he makes mine too. So the barrels that I use are Latino.
nice. Okay, so I will say that I want to ask you a quick question because you've mentioned this with several things and I appreciate. I'm so happy you've mentioned this. You've mentioned that a lot of the grapes that you source are from Latino owned growers. The barrels so how important is it for you? Because what I've realized is it's become almost ingrained in me. Like even as I'm preparing for my wedding, I've realized I bought my wedding dress from a Latina owned bridal shop. I got my earrings from a Latina jewelry designer. We have tacos. We're having churros and ice cream, like we're supporting Latino owned businesses, right? So all of these things, I think when you just start doing it, it becomes like intrinsic that you don't have to think about doing it, you just do it. So how important is it for you as a Latino small business owner to support other Latinos that are growing grapes and making barrels and all of those types of things?
I think, like I said, it comes hand in hand with supporting our community. Like we want everyone who's starting off small like we are to be able to succeed. So I think it's important. Like we want to, like as much as we can, you know, keep our money within our community and support, you know, as much as we can support other Latino businesses and like you said, all the Latino wine growers and or not wine growers, grape growers and just we want everyone in our communities to succeed. So I think that's like our biggest thing. Like that's the most important point. So I guess that's
It's very important.
yeah,
It's very important.
that's where it comes from. Like we're starting off small, so we know the struggle and we want to be able to support those that, you know, are starting off small also.
Yeah, for me also it's very important, you know, to support Latinos, friends, family, because it's not easy. It's not easy to go get, you know, 100,000 and start a business. It's scary because I mean, at the same time, we got a mortgage, we got bills to pay, we got kids, we got car payments, we got this and that, and to do that is hard. So supporting Latinos for me is very, very important. You know, I try to keep it, you know, as Latino as I can.
Yeah. I always like to give everybody an opportunity to share like anything maybe I haven't asked, maybe anything we haven't talked about. If there's anything else that you want to add, please do so now.
For me, it's just like if somebody wants to start a business, any kind of business, and that's your dreams, just do it because you would never know. You know, you never know if it would have took off or you failed. But you know what? If you fail, you learn, and you try again. So for me, it's just like just take that chance and get it done. But you be passionate about it and be dedicated and be committed.
Paola, is there anything else you want to add?
No,
You don't
I mean,
have
he pretty
to. I
much-
was just asking.
No, and
Come on, man.
see, that's how I knew he was gonna get it done because he was gonna be passionate, and I knew, even though I was scared about it, that it would work out. But yeah,
Well, I'm so glad we finally got to do this, right? Was it worth it? Was it worth the wait?
Yeah, hell yeah. I love it. I just get nervous at first, you know. I get nervous and get jittery, and I gotta get all the.
Let me tell you, everybody, like Luis messaged me. He's like, call me as soon as you get this, like a few hours before. He's like, what are we gonna talk about? I'm like, we're talking about your story. Like, I don't know what questions I'm gonna ask. We're talking about you and your story. Nobody's better at telling you and your story than you. So, you know, that's what it is. So I'm so glad we got to do that. I got to enjoy your wine. I will make sure that all of your information is in all of the show notes. Mi gente, please make sure that you are supporting. And if you go to Surcos Wine or anything, make sure to tell them that the Wine and Chisme sent you so they know. I mean, they're going to treat everybody amazingly, but they're going to treat you extra amazingly.
And feel free to follow me on Instagram. You know, that's just by that's supporting a lot. You know, because one person gets to know me, they tell 10 people, then they tell another 10 people, and that's how it grows.
Yeah, it's about sharing. Even if you don't drink wine, it's about
Correct.
supporting the community. If you don't drink wine, you know somebody who drinks wine, right? So like share it with them.
That's right. And then, hey, Jessica, you know, I just want to say thank you thank you for inviting us. Thank you for your time, and thank you for interviewing us. And it was great. I can't wait till the next one.
I know. I'm so excited. We finally got to do this. I had such a good time with you both. I can't wait to see you again. It's got to be soon. Obviously, we have to do something this year, but I'm really excited you guys were finally able to do this. It was like on my end, it was very well worth the wait as well. So until next time. Go ahead.
I was going to say, next time you're in Napa, let me know and we'll do a private tasting here at the house.
All right. You don't need to tell me twice. All right, thank you. And mi gente, until next time.
Adios. Salud.
Hola, mi gente. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.